diaspora responding to Ethiopian homecoming challenge. US political analyst mentions ENDF's tactical halt as highly strategic. Good evening to you all. A very warm welcome to ETV News. I am Grum Tariku. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has welcomed Ethiopian diaspora returning home in response to the Great Ethiopian Homecoming Challenge. A nation can be symbolized with an extended family. A family foundation strengthened during trying season. Tribulation helps family to form bond while it forces others to fall apart, the Premier noted. Other Ethiopians living abroad have also been busy booking their flight for the fast approaching Great Diaspora Homecoming Challenge to celebrate Christmas in their homeland. Jerusalem Bitsa has more on that.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has welcomed Ethiopian diaspora returning home in response to the Great Ethiopian Homecoming Challenge that he had announced so far. On his welcoming speech, the Premier underlined that this is the time when Ethiopia has tested a lot as a nation. Ethiopia's enemies have left no stone unturned in order to agitate her. That Ethiopia thrives with the help of collaboration between her daughters and sons. Tribulations have made unity of its children stronger and stronger. The terribles have enabled Ethiopia to leverage its resource. Ethiopians diaspora living all over the world has shown strong solidarity with their country in times of need. They defended interests of their Ethiopia when some had tried to cloud realities on the ground in the country with disinformation and impose pressures in the country, he said. The Prime Minister further called upon members of the diaspora community who have returned home to visit impacted areas and support Ethiopians who have been affected by the TPLF aggression and investigate the extent of the atrocities committed by the terrorist group and expose them to the rest of the world upon their return to the countries where they live. Over the last 1.5 years, the Western forces have been campaigning negatively and they have been trying to put their pressure on Ethiopia in many ways. On these difficult times, patriotic Ethiopians have been showing their cohesion to their people by speaking the truth about the country to the world. On their journey, many Africans and the black people and other oppressed peoples have been also joining Ethiopians for the campaign in protesting in front of embassies, international organizations, palaces and mass media outlets to denounce the US and its allies' intervention and pressure on the sovereign state Ethiopia.
The cause of Ethiopia has now become the cause of black people everywhere. African brothers and sisters are picking up this call to stand up with Ethiopia. The hashtag No More movement was begun in America. It is now like wildfire again. People in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, St. Kitts, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Vincent, everywhere, Caribbean nations are picking up the cause of Ethiopia and fighting with Ethiopia and supporting Ethiopia. So it has been international. It is now so international, no force can stop it. People are saying that today it is Ethiopia, tomorrow it might be us. And divided, we'll fall, but if we are united, we'll do it, we'll be stronger. So that's where we are now, and we are happy that the story that Ethiopia needs to tell.
Though Western countries order their citizens to leave from Ethiopia, the Ethiopian government has contrarily called on Ethiopians and friends of Ethiopia from all over the world to come to Ethiopia to witness the reality of the country and to celebrate Ethiopian Christmas. Now, Ethiopian diaspora has begun coming to their homeland. Others are also on the way and have been busy in booking their flights for the fast approaching Great Diaspora Homecoming Challenge.
It is for the first time that, the head of government, the leader of the country says, given the Ethiopian situation, time to come home, time to reconnect with your people, time to reconnect with families, and time to talk about Ethiopia, to strategize, and to stand for Ethiopia. So the reception was very warm, and the outcome of the call was that thousands and thousands of Ethiopians are now, trying to get, their air tickets before all the seats are gone. So that's where we are now. And the message is very powerful. The message is powerful. Up to now, people come to back home, because of work or just because of to see family and members. But now the call is made by the leader of the country, saying that the Ethiopian community in the diaspora, come home, be with us, celebrate with us, stand with Ethiopia. And I see it to be very, very positive and well taken by the diaspora.
Ethiopian Airlines, Ethio Telecom, private and government-owned hotels and other service-giving institutions have already announced discounts on their service to make the challenge attractive to all.
Ambassador and permanent representative of Ethiopia to the United Nations, Taye Hatzqeslasse, said Ethiopia needs to pay tribute to heroes who sacrificed their lives for sovereignty and territorial integrity of the country. A webinar meeting organized by International Consortium of Ethiopian Diaspora aiming to discuss on the homecoming campaign to bring 1 million diaspora home has been held. Habtamu Ashagre has more on this.
Ambassador and permanent representative of Ethiopia to the United Nations, Taye Hatzqeslasse, has called for tribute to heroes and heroines who sacrificed themselves for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ethiopia. Addressing a webinar meeting by International Consortium of Ethiopian Diaspora aiming to discuss on the homecoming campaign to bring 1 million Ethiopian diaspora, Ambassador Taye called on Ethiopians to nurture habit of encouraging brave fighters for their sacrifices to safeguard sovereignty and territorial integrity of the nation. On the other hand, he said that the Great Ethiopian Homecoming Program will better deliver a great political message to powers that are pressuring Ethiopia. This homecoming program is an instrument to show the unity and solidarity to the rest of the world, and it also amplified the new hope and sustenance of Ethiopians, the ambassador added. The overall movement of Ethiopian diaspora and Ethiopian origin is a great political message for all unfair foreign pressurizers, as well as other anti-peace elements that are working to demolish Ethiopia. According to Taye, Ethiopian diasporas are coming together to magnify how Ethiopian and Ethiopians are standing together during hard times to the rest of the world. As part of this move, the ambassador underlined Ethiopia is not a country like others, simply demolishing and operating like they only want. Outsiders have to know that Ethiopia is continuing by restoring its own sovereignty and integrity like before. The homecoming challenge is a journey of survival, and it is a time of healing from the wound, Taye pointed out. To be Ethiopian means owing for determination and rather an immediate happiness, no despondency, the ambassador remarked. Peace-loving is the sustenance source of Ethiopian. Perseverance of Ethiopians emanate from their love of peace, he said, calling for peaceful dialogue and related mechanisms to address circumstances. According to the ambassador, cooperation is a key instrument to avoid separation as well as massive crisis in Ethiopia. He further expressed optimism that Ethiopians will better serve and care for the diaspora who are returning home based on their deep-seated culture of hospitality. He further called on the diaspora community to join the Great Ethiopian Homecoming Challenge and show their strong solidarity with their homeland.
It's about 9 a.m. this morning. We're here at the most famous church here in Lalibela, St. George's Church, and you can see it down below.
Merry Christmas.
The National Committee for the Great Homecoming Challenge today announced preparations are finalized to welcome the Ethiopian diaspora. Government organizations like Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Tourism, Diaspora Agency and the Addis Ababa City Administration have unveiled their packages for the Great Homecoming Challenge. Johannes Fantaun has attended the announcement.
It's to be recalled that the diaspora community has been carrying out various activities against the pressure imposed on Ethiopia by some foreign governments. Many of these activities have taken place in large cities around the world, especially in protest of some Western governments for their inappropriate intervention in the internal issues of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian government has been undertaking various activities to put in use the unity of the diaspora. The activities were started by establishing a national committee headed by Dammaqe Mokonnin, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Ethiopia.
They have staged various demonstrations in front of the buildings of international organizations and media institutions and have made relentless efforts to stop the influence of the organizations and the media in our country. They also provided significant financial and material support to the armed force and to those affected by the war. Some have responded to the Prime Minister's call for fronting the war and have come to support the coalition.
Following the Great Homecoming Challenge made by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, many are coming to their motherland, Ethiopia. It has been reported that the National Committee headed by senior government officials has been set up to receive the 1 million diaspora members who have been invited. The National Committee has now completed all the preparations and announced the activities that will take place starting from December 29. In a statement issued, various members of the National Committee announced their plans for the event.
By accepting the call of the Prime Minister, Ethiopians living abroad and friends of Ethiopia are coming to Ethiopia. As a result, we, as the Ministry of Tourism and members of the National Committee, have been working individually and as a group to welcome the influx of diaspora members. We hope that the coming diaspora will strengthen the service sector.
According to Dr. Muhammad Idris, Director General of the Ethiopian Diaspora Agency, the programs will be held in Addis Ababa and other regional towns, including places affected by the war.
When a child comes home, he asks where is my mother, rather than what my mother has. However, since hospitality is our tradition, we made various arrangements to welcome the diaspora. The welcoming program will be held at the Friendship Square in Addis Ababa on December 29.
On its part, the Addis Ababa City Administration has said the following.
The Addis Ababa City Administration has completed preparations for various events for Ethiopians and Ethiopian friends who are coming to the country. The City Administration is working with the National Committee to ensure the success of the diaspora community at home. Various forums and symposiums will be held from the beginning of the reception.
Government organizations like Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Tourism, Diaspora Agency and Addis Ababa City Administration have announced their individual package and the package of the National Committee.
U.S. political analyst mentions Ethiopian National Defense Forces tactical halt outside of Tigray as highly strategic. By doing so, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces escapes the trap set by US-led West, their media and TPLF to accuse the Ethiopian government of genocide, the Moscow-based US analyst said. The TPLF was transporting to Tigray mass burying a large number of its terrorists killed in Amhara and Afar regions to provide it as an evidence for a genocide accusation. Take a look.
The TPLF has been accusing the Ethiopian government of war crime and genocide in a prudently planned way. The self-crafted evidences of the TPLF genocide claims were also propagated at the UN Security Council and the UN Human Rights Council. Although there were powerful Western hands like the Biden administration behind this scene, the genocide accusation was verified false by the UN Human Rights Council investigation. And now, after the Ethiopian National Defense Force's successful completion of its National Unity in Diversity operation, which resulted in the armed forces' decision to remain outside of the Tigray region, the TPLF together with US-led West and media have been waiting the Ethiopian National Defense Force to enter their trap. Many observers consider Ethiopian National Defense Force decision to halt entering Tigray as tactically rational one. It is actually highly strategic.
has also diplomatic values, simply because I'm sure we all have heard time and again that some Western as well as some other colleagues and development partners were asking Ethiopian government not to enter into Tigray once if they had already defeated them from Afar, from Amhara region. Mm-hmm. And I think it has that diplomatic concordance with international community as well.
According to the information revealed, the TPLF had already transported a large number of their terrorists who were killed during the government's liberation counteroffensive in the Afar and Amhara regions to mass graves in their home region. Upon the Ethiopian National Defense Forces entrance into Tigray, the TPLF plans to accuse it of genocide there and has coordinated disinformation warfare provocation with foreign media who have already agreed to dutifully play along. By wisely avoiding this trap, the Ethiopian National Defense Force ensures that it will fail. There will be no revival of the regularly debunked genocide claims, including through false flag plots. This throws a wrench in the US-led West to artificially manufacture another pretext for justifying the next phase of their pre-planned pressure campaign against Ethiopia. By denying them this, any forthcoming moves in that direction will be even less credible than all their prior warnings, which further erodes the US-led West's reputation. Coupled with their foiling of the US-led West's information warfare provocation, this will serve to decisively reshape global perceptions of the conflict. There is another strategic element to the Ethiopian National Defense Force's tactical halt outside of the Tigray, and that's the government's planned national dialogue with all peaceful forces in the country. To be clear, this does not concern terrorist groups like the TPLF and its allies who are unable to participate in this process. They have proven that they are threats to peace, have committed war crimes, and thus aren't legitimate stakeholders in the country's future. These strategic dynamics are putting immense pressure on the TPLF. They are contained to Tigray, whose residents will now have to hold them accountable for the disastrous war that was waged in their name.
The people of Tigray could mobilize, should stand up to asking the question, where are our children? You promised to enter into Addis and take up the government regime and remove Abiy and others, but where are they? So because people really are wise and they may just ask questions, they can never always be cheated and ignored. And they would also say that this could demonstrate to entire population as well, because I told you we're not going to have any negotiation because there is no one. The war is over. But now people realize that the war is not over. Ethiopian government had upper hand and they came back from those old areas.
The best case scenario would be for the TPLF to disarm, demobilize and hand over those of its members who committed war crimes so that they can face justice that they deserve and seek to reintegrate the rest of their members into their local society with time. It has to be underlined that the government can also enter Tigray region at any time to fulfill its responsibilities of maintaining sovereignty and integrity of the country.
Minister of Finance Ahmed Shide said an additional budget of 5 billion birr has been allocated in order to rehabilitate the war-affected people. He further stated that the rehabilitation program is government-led and coordinated at all levels and will strive to bring a lasting solution. Ahmed also urged the regions to actively involve and cooperate with other national committees and engage the private sector and the diaspora in the state activities. Rehabilitation Secretariat Executive Committee constitutes various stakeholders from Ministry of Education, Health, Planning and Development, Water and Energy, Industry, Women and Social Affairs, Labor and Skills, Urban Infrastructure and other relevant federal officials. USA's historic call to its citizens to leave Ethiopia is partly a reflection of its horrible handling of the debacle it created in other nations like that of Afghanistan. Finnish author, freelance journalist and television producer Rauli Veterinen made this remark in an exclusive interview with ETV. African nations should have strong problem-solving culture to fight growing trends of neocolonialism by some in the West, he said. Shifa Raulako reports.
The Finnish author, freelance journalist and television producer Rauli Virtanen has covered wars and conflicts since the Vietnam War in 1972 and visited every independent state in the world. Recalling America's horrible handling of the debacle it created in Afghanistan, he says USA's repeated hysteric move to evacuate its citizens from Ethiopia is partly a reflection of this issue.
Mostly what I was surprised, I was in Afghanistan when I didn't follow so much of the news in Ethiopia, but I noticed that the Americans, they say, we have to leave Addis Ababa. European Union said embassies, foreigners have to leave. And I was wondering, what is this? I don't see any signs that the government is going to fall there or whatever. So I think it was because what happened in Kabul, in Afghanistan, which was really badly managed, as I have told you earlier, by the Western powers and of course United States. So it was a horrible chaos at the airport. And of course, always whenever the foreign embassies, foreign people are leaving, so there's a part of the local population that is getting panicked, and also thinking that we don't know, there's something going on, that the foreigners know, we don't know, should we back, should we? And that I don't like. I'm reading that your government forces have been pushing back and the Tigrayan fighters and they are going back. So what was the use of evacuating embassies and people?
Regarding media war waged against Ethiopia by major Western media outlets, he says the East African nation's top priority should be revealing the realities on the ground.
In Ethiopia's case, you could show that this humanitarian assistance relief convoy has been destroyed or hijacked by the other side, the Tigrayan people, like we have read, and then things like that, and then in interviewing and people talking there, but it's very difficult. I'm not so keen that you should. I don't think you should show so much about fighting these big organizations like CNN or whatever. Just stay solid and tell the facts and provide as much as you can the information.
He also says the continent of Africa needs to have a robust problem-solving system in order to minimize growing trends of neocolonialism by some Western powers.
And it always disturbs me when European and Western mediators are trying to solve problems like in continents like in Africa. I think, and I know that African Union has been training more and more and people, the mediators, African mediators to mediate with the people. So, because this is a bit like a colonialistic approach that we are coming from Europe or Northern Europe to tell you how to make the peace, etc. with that, because we would never fully understand the situation. Of course, sometimes you need a independent mediator, like a friend of mine, President Martti Ahtisaari, who won the Nobel Peace Prize as like your Prime Minister.
In a world where misinformation and disinformation coupled with hate speech and false propaganda are growing at an alarming rate, educating people from the lowest levels upward is very important, he advises.
Pakistani ambassador to Ethiopia, Shozab Abbas, said his country, along with Ethiopia, is going to establish a scientific forum to advance the two nations' digital economy. The ambassador noted that Pakistan has experienced many strides in science and technology, adding that his government shows keen interest to transfer knowledge to Ethiopia. Kasam Chani reports the details.
Ethiopia and Pakistan are going to establish a scientific forum to advance the two nations' digital technology that would focus on information technology and digital economy development, environmental protection, water technology, health and other sectors, and technology transfer. Ambassador Shozab Abbas accentuated that the scientific forum is pivotal to boost particularly to modernize the agriculture sector of the two nations and flourish their business in various ways.
Pakistan has made many strides, successful strides in the field of science and technology, particularly the science which is related to the developing nations. Pakistan is 220 million population, in yours is 110 million. So the main fundamental question is the availability of food, cheap food to the people, affordable food. So I think that agricultural technologies are very, very vital for the two countries, one thing. And second is that we should also work on the promotion of modern technologies in order to overcome many hurdles which the developing countries are facing with. And in that, digital technology can be very, very useful.
Ambassador Abbas also called on the government of Ethiopia to further efforts to bring up the two nations to the planned technology.
Then I believe that the people from Pakistan and people from Ethiopia, those who are engaged in these disciplines, especially their scientists and their academics and others, they should have a platform where they can come and sit down and discuss that how they are making different efforts in order to achieve their targets in these areas. So that's the one reason I requested to the Minister for Science and Innovation to please make some efforts to bring the scientific community of Pakistan and Ethiopia together.
Pursuant to the strides, the ambassador emphasized that Ethiopian Airlines resumed air flights to his country to further cement the two nations' people-to-people ties as well.
So I would request that the Ethiopian airline should immediately resume regular flights between Addis Ababa and Islamabad or Karachi, so that the people from the two countries should move freely and they may have more opportunity to understand each other, visit their different places and see that how the two countries are actually flourishing the businesses. So I think once that connectivity question would be resolved effectively, the businesses will definitely not only double but tripled, because there is a lot of potential. Pakistan is also an agricultural country, but we are also advancing very fast in light engineering technologies. Also, the information technology is also booming in Pakistan. So I would say that if really the two countries may come closer to each other, they can benefit, and the trade potential is there, and it can increase many, many folds.
It was noted that Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed met in the past at the Belt and Road Forum in Beijing. And the Pakistani Prime Minister also met with President Saleh Ghazodeh at the last United Nations General Assembly, where the two sides expressed firm commitment to strengthen the existing level of ties and expand people-to-people relations.
It's reported that since the commencement of law enforcement operations, the US, some Western allies, and media outlets opened coordinated hybrid warfare on Ethiopia. Human rights activist Obang Meto says the vast misinformation campaign against Ethiopia by the West is to pursue their hidden agenda on sovereign nation, Ethiopia. The remark came while scholars held discussions on proliferations of fake news on Ethiopia at Bahir Dar University. Here's what he has said.
In the last almost the last years, the media, what the media is portraying from the outside and what's going on in Ethiopia is incomparable. Why? Because those people have their own agenda. The agenda of today, if those government cannot listen to you, you can paint an image of them for your constituents to support you, and then for those countries that will be vulnerable economically. And the reason why this is happening in Ethiopia, I am in human rights, not really for the sake of the human beings, it's for the interest of those countries.
Since last year, some Western media outlets have been reporting willfully by distorting facts to manipulate the Ethiopian people, Obang noted.
If you look at it genuinely, most of the Western media report and saying that, the Ethiopian government blocked food from reaching to Tigray regions. They never mentioned once the TPLF has blocked food, medication reaching out to Ethiopia, who are in Afar, who are in Amara region. So when we talk about fake news, it is an intention. It's a fabrication, disinformation, and to manipulate the peoples. We will remember and we know Iraq was one time a country that where people were living in a much more better life than today. And Iraq war came in the name of there were a nuclear weapons. Until today, it's never been found.
Obang also stressed that the problem of Ethiopia should be solved only by Ethiopians.
The problem of Ethiopia, it was created by the Ethiopian, can be solved by Ethiopian, period. And outsiders, if the problem in Washington, D.C., in London, in Brussels can be solved by those people with Ethiopia needing it, there's no need for Ethiopians, other outsiders to come to Ethiopia. This has been going on again and again and again. Last year alone, the UN Security Council, not one, not twice, not three, called an Ethiopian issue and called it a national security issue. It was about the waters. The source of the water of Ethiopia come from where I am standing. Ethiopia never say that we don't want to share the water. They want to say that we want to use part of the water. It doesn't need to go to a UN Security Council and issues.
Gonda town. I've never even heard of that town before I got here. And she was like, okay, let's check out this town. The only problem was that this town was 12 hours away from Addis by road. And this landed in Gonda town. He told us about a place called Simeon's Mountains, and boy, this place is another thing on its own.
The name of this place is called Buitras. We are very close to the highest lodge in Africa.
Hey guys, just got to the restaurant now. Oh, he's writing VIP. Yeah. So guys, he's writing VIP on this mix. VIP. Yes. Guys, this is raw meat. Raw meat.
You are watching ETV News, and finally, Sudan's move towards democracy is under threat after the military seized control of the country's transitional government in a coup. A strategic expert and political analyst in Sudan says that imposing security measures may calm things down by reducing the friction from different confrontation, but protesters in Khartoum and other cities need leaders to help them reach their goals. Tigster Nisa has more from CGTN.
Tens of thousands of Sudanese protesters rallied near the presidential palace in the capital Khartoum on Saturday, demanding soldiers go back to the barracks. It was Tens' major demonstration since the military took power in October. Protesters say they want the military out of the government during a transition to free elections.
We will not go out in favor of a party or in favor of freedom and change. We will remain in the street unless our demands are fulfilled. And our demands are that the Burham leave and the rapid support militias be dissolved and return to the barracks, and the army becomes a national army.
Soldiers fired tear gas to disperse the demonstrators. Communications were cut off and the major roads and bridges were blocked.
Rejecting murder, oppression and violence, we went out today and we will go tomorrow, demanding a civil and democratic state in which we'll be free and live in dignity. The weapon of rape shames the rapist. It does not defeat us, does not break us, and we will not retreat.
Officials say 58 police personnel were injured in the protests and more than 100 people were arrested. So far, at least 48 people have died in the crackdown on the demonstrators.
I think that the security measures taken by the security services are aimed at preventing a recurrence of what happened on the 19th of December, so that there will be no costing lives for the young people, for the procedures, for the dispersal from the front of the Republican Palace. Therefore, I think that it will be useful in preventing injuries and reducing friction between the security services and the demonstrators.
These demonstrations need leadership in order to reach their goals. In their current way, they cannot achieve the desired goals, because a demonstration in the end must have leadership and a roadmap to achieve the goals, which is the full restoration of civil authority, and it is expected that these demonstrations will continue until decisions are reached or political settlements. The demonstrations in the street cannot reach the goal unless there is a political force that crystallizes these demonstrations in a clear roadmap and arrives at inevitable results.
Sudan's move towards democracy is under threat after the military seized control of the country's transitional government in a coup. The country's democratic project began just 2 years ago after Sudanese longtime dictator Omar al-Bashir was overthrown amid mass protest in 2019.
Now, a reminder of the headlines. Prime Minister Abiy welcomes diaspora responding to Great Ethiopian Homecoming Challenge. US political analyst mentions ENDF's tactical halt as highly strategic. You have been watching ETV News. Thanks for joining us and have a pleasant evening.